Let's go ahead and work on our feet. Let's go and select our lower body here. And we are gonna have to split the feet from the actual leg. That way we could add more geometry on our feet without adding more on the leg area, okay? And before we do that, before we do any splitting, so that our feet won't be out of place when we split, we have to go ahead and Control A and apply auto transformation, and then go to scope mode. Very important, make sure you do that. Now let's go ahead and mask out this part. And yeah, let's go to mask to new object. Now we could go to our scope mode and let's go to our remesh, and we could bring down the voxel size, like I said, to 0.05 and remesh that. All right, now I'm gonna go to my smoothing and just crank up my smoothing and just do a little smoothing test. Yeah, I think that's good enough. And it looks like there's a hole right here. I'm gonna go to my inflate that, Control R to remesh and smooth it, inflate again, and so on. All right, so now let's go ahead and start to work on our feet area. All right, we kind of have the forms here, but definitely need a little bit more work. We could go ahead and push this in. So this is going to be the inner part of the feet here. And for the inner part of our feet, okay, we have to know that the bony landmark, the ankle here, is going to be slightly higher around this area than the one over here is going to be slightly lower, okay? So when you are looking at this here, all right, you should see that you have this kind of a line like this. So this is higher and this is lower for the ankle area. And when you look at the back, of course, when you look at the back here, oh, looks like this is not really on the floor. I'm going to go ahead and move this down. Okay, so when you look at the back here, this is going to be, if you look at this line here, slanted line, and then this is higher, this is lower. And if you look at the calves, you got this nice shape here where this is slightly higher and this is slightly lower. Human body is very interesting like that. All right, and we could go ahead and start further work on our feet here. So we could go ahead and kind of move it this way, pull it up, and as I mentioned before, we kind of have a little bit of shape going already here, but we need to go ahead and maybe mask out this part right here. Control I to invert it, use the grab brush, and then just pull this in so you could see more separation between the big toe and the little toe there. Alt M. And I think we could use more geometry. I'm going to set this to 0.04 and remesh that. All right. And when you remesh it, you should see that this is not binding together. If you see that this is binding with this, maybe you should increase the remesher voxel size. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just mask this area out. Use the grab brush. Just going to do this here. Yeah. All right, and close, but not that close. And I want you to think about the shape here as you are doing this. So for the shape, we kind of have this little curve going from the top view, and then we kind of have this kind of goes down like that, a little higher on this area. Okay, so think of this shape as you are doing it from the top view, okay? And looking from this view here, okay, go ahead and pull this up. So around this part here is going to be making contact with the floor, as I mentioned before, all right, this area. And okay, go ahead, Alt M to unmask. Control R to remesh, and you see when it remeshes, just kind of fuse that together. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and increase the remesher slightly to 0.03 and remesh that. All right, so it's no longer fusing together. Nice. And we could go to our scrape brush and then just kind of flatten this area out. Okay, like that. So what I'm thinking about right now as I'm doing this shape is I am thinking of the individual toes, and if you kind of think of them as a whole, this is how it's going to be if you think them in planar shape, something like that. Okay, and what we could do is we could go ahead and using our draw sharp brush, could kind of kind of visualize already our toes here. Okay, go and push this in, go, and also here and here. Could go ahead and bulk this up slightly and push that in, that, and from the top view here we could kind of think about an arc here going like this. So kind of around this going on there, kind of smooth this area out, kind of fix this up. Okay, so when you're thinking of the toe, okay, so gonna have this curve going like this. Okay, all right, and looking in this view, we could go to our draw sharp and just carve this in. I'm gonna crank up my intensity. Yeah, carve that in. That. Yeah, and from this view, we could go ahead and think of the offset of the toe here, kind of like how we were thinking when we were doing the fingers. We have a beautiful shape going with the offset like this at the tip of the fingers, and we're could kind of add that as we're doing the toe area. Okay, and around this here, we could go ahead and add a little bit of a bony landmark here using the clay strip brush, kind of indication of the bony landmark there. And we could kind of make this slightly longer on the area, and go. And looking at this view, yeah, we could go to our draw sharp and then just kind of carve this in here. That. So the way the toes work is we actually have some interesting bony landmarks here. So for the big toe, you have to think of, you have 1 and 2 for that, all right? And we have the big metatarsal toe right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? And then for the big toe, we have 1 and 2. And then for the other toes, for the rest of the toes here, we don't just have 2 extra bones. We have 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So thinking about those landmarks as we are doing this here. And yeah, when we are doing the part right here, we could kind of push this in a bit. And we have this, if you look at your side of your feet here at the top, you're gonna see that there's this kind of like an egg-shaped mass here going. could kind of indicate that there. And then around here we have this, it looks like it's actually muscle around this area on the side. And we could kind of maybe flatten this out a little bit. And around this area we could add a little break, so we got something like this, that, and then like this. Hold control, push this in, got that nice break, and then could bring down the smoothing a bit and then kind of smooth it out. I want to smooth it, but not to the point where it's smoothing out every strip that I create here. So like that. And we could also go ahead and, looking from this view, pull this in like this. All right. Okay, so looking from this view, okay, go ahead and smooth this out. I'm gonna go crank up my smoothing brush and smooth this slowly. Smooth that out. I'm gonna go to my draw brush and just kind of push this in and then pull this out. Our toes is slightly curled, so we're going to have this curl going. So it looks a little curled, our toe, a little curled. So we could kind of indicate that just by adding a little depth here, like that, like so. Using the grab brush, I'm gonna go ahead and make this slightly wider. All right, and add some more clay here in this area. Go push this in, grab brush and pull that out, push this in, and then we could add some more geometry. I'm gonna set this voxel size to 0.02 and I'm gonna go ahead and remesh that. Okay, and we could kind of think more about what's going on here at the bottom part. All right, I think this is a little too wide. It needs to get narrow here around this area. So from the bottom view, we are going to have this kind of shape going, and then there's a little curve there, and then it gets narrow here at the bottom. Okay, so make it just a bit more narrow like that, and move this out, carve it in, and then add some fatty pads here. And there's going to be a lot of folds going on here at the bottom of the feet because we are constantly flattening this feet. We have our heavy weight of our body constantly adding pressure at the bottom. So definitely it's going to be a lot of folds there. Move that up. And good. Look at this view here. So yeah, we got this roundness, kind of like an egg-shaped mass around this area. And then we have this, which is going to be the ankle area, right? And I think there's this strange bulkiness going on. I'm going to kind of flatten that out a bit. And I'm going to go to my draw sharp and just kind of indicate some folds here. I'm holding control as I'm doing this. Holding control. Sometimes I don't hold control and I just kind of add a little bit of folds around this area and just smooth it. Adding a little bit of information here and there. And from this view, we could kind of further indicate the toe, and we could indicate the nail area here. We could look at this view. So looking at the toe here, we should kind of lift this up and pull this down. So for the toe, we kind of have this shape going. We're looking from the front of the toe. Very nice. Pull that, there you go. And this area, of course, is definitely looking way too flat. Around this area, there's going to be a lot of tendons coming down. We're going to see the tendons that's coming from the tibialis anterior muscle, the hero muscles. We're going to see the tendons coming down basically from, so we have this big piece of muscle, which is going to be like the hero muscle, right? And that has to have a tendon. And then we're also going to have a tendon coming down in the middle, like right beside the tibialis anterior muscle. We're going to have another muscle here, and then the tendon is going to just come down, connecting to the last 4 toes, okay? And yeah, let's go ahead. And also, yeah, let me tell you, in between this muscle and this muscle right here, there's also going to be a little bit of muscle in between this muscle and this, and let me change the color. This muscle right here, there's going to be another muscle located in this area. You barely see that muscle, but you do see its tendon kind of peeking out. So we should really have the tendon coming down up to the big toe, all right? So you could notice it a little bit connecting to the big toe, and there's also going to be a tendon coming down from the hero muscle, all right? And then we're going to have another tendon that's connecting to the last 4 toes. So lots of tendons going on the top of the feet. Yeah, so let's go ahead and kind of indicate those. So I'm going to go ahead using my draw sharp. Just going to indicate this coming down like that. And then another one coming onto the big toe like this. You can also use the draw sharp, the regular draw brush to kind of indicate that. And then we have this here for the last 4 toes. Gonna have noticeable tendons here. And of course, it's not really gonna look like that because we're gonna have some veins that will give it a little break. So if we go to draw sharp and just add some veins, that gives it a nice break. You see how much better that looks if you just add a little bit of veins overlapping those tendons. But you could do all of that later. I think that we should further focus more on our toes generally here. Now, yeah, for the toes, you could barely see that on a character. It's rare that you're going to be creating a character that shows that is walking barefoot, but it's still good to understand how to sculpt the feet, right? Just like how it's very good to understand how to sculpt the hands, because you're going to be able to practice your anatomy. And just in case that you are supposed to do a character that actually has to be barefoot, you know how to do it, okay? And there's also going to be a tendon coming down, connecting right in this area, but you could barely see that tendon. You could probably see a little bit here, just around this area, but very little, very subtle. And around this area here, I also like to add just like some veins around this area just to give the ankle a little break, some veiny parts like that, which we could do once we add more resolution here. We could further indicate that. And definitely around this area here, we're gonna definitely add some more folds. We're gonna need to add some wrinkles around this area, okay, in the inner part. So we could go ahead and kind of indicate that already. So something like this. I'm gonna bring it down the intensity, but you're gonna see a lot of folds around this area like that. And you're also going to see some folds also over here. I think the Achilles tendon, I just kind of made it too much, too thin. It's too thin. So I'm going to go ahead and make it wider like that. And when you're doing this, you just kind of think of it as if this area is squashed down. So when you have this right here, there's a bony landmark, the heel bone. You could kind of squash it a little bit because all that weight that we're carrying, this is bound to be flat around that area. And then we got this beautiful Achilles tendon going. Yeah, I think around this area is too thin, so I'm going to go back to my sculpt and I'm going to go select this, go sculpt mode, and add some more here so it's not so thin. Also kind of further indicate the tibia bone like that. And I think I kind of made this too long, the calf muscle, so I'm gonna slightly bring it up. There you go. And looking from the back again, that's fine. And I'm looking here, it looks like I still have the bottom part masked out. I'm gonna Alt-M to unmask that. Right, and okay, so I think we are on a roll here with the foot area. We got good feet going and we got good hands going. And I think around this area we could go sculpt mode and add some fatty tissue here. We're gonna go ahead and blend this in later with the butt and it's gonna look fairly smooth. Yeah, we're gonna further work on this. But yeah, we have a very good feet. Alrighty. See you guys in the next video.